give a bit of background as to myself, to give the overview of who I am. So like I say, I'm 21 years old, entrepreneur. I actually started when I was 11 years old, building websites in my bedroom. I'll talk a bit more through that story in a bit. But then what has then led to me then doing from age of 11 to say where I am now, have the opportunity to work with the UK royal family, government, work alongside some entrepreneurs like Richard Branson, speak at some events I never thought I'd ever be able to speak at. And I was also named by the Times at the top of their super teen power list. And that happened when I was 17 years old. So what I want to do is talk to you a bit more about the story behind that. And then, like I say, hopefully give some relevance for you as well in your business. So to give you an idea of some of the work we were doing and the overview. So as a business, we were initially set up to build websites, and we were initially set up to try to find a way to help companies get online. The way that started out was a bit of a, I'd say, random occurrence. So one of my mum's friends came to me when I was 11 and just said, "You get tech," it's sort of waffling a hand, you sort of get what this is. And the best way of thinking about that is like this sort of older people looking at the young people saying, "You get what's going on." And she came to me and said, "I'm sure you get that. Do you mind building me a website?" So I literally learned on YouTube how to build a website. And it's something that I'm sure a lot of you here have done when it comes to running your businesses and projects and so on, where if you've had a question or you want to go understand something deeper, maybe instead of asking somebody who is a teacher or professional in that context, you might have just gone to YouTube and tried to find it out yourself. And that is, in a sense, how I built my actual deliverable business skills. And in this case, it was website design. So I started off building these websites, and age 11, this first family friend, I charged her £50. And after doing that, she then said, "That's brilliant. You should do more of this." And so at that age, I was very much seeking, how can I get more money? How can I do more websites? And so it led to me then growing this company out. And by the age of 13, I made it into an actual business. Now, obviously, at that age, I still didn't quite know what business was. For me, business was what I saw on telly. Business was the fake boardroom environments, the pitching that you would see on popular TV shows. And it was never really the reality of growing, scaling, and building a business. Then what started to happen is you went from website design and started to pivot more into marketing. And one of the big things you'll find in business is you have to always stay on top of the trends, what's happening. I realized that a lot of people are building websites. It's such a common thing for people to be doing now. But marketing to engage young people at the time when I was doing this, so about 4 or 5 years ago, was very new. It was something that was just starting to come out, especially social media marketing in this whole space. And one of the big things that brands really struggled to do was to engage young people. So I was sitting there and I realized, hang on a minute, I'm a young person. I get social media because I've grown up with it in my pocket on my phone. So how can I use that to my advantage? And so here are some of the work we were doing. So for brands like Championers, so they're a luxury health spa, and they wanted to try to find a way to completely reimagine how people saw them, try to find a way to give that luxury, but in a very futuristic way. We also managed to work with brands like Virgin Racing. So Virgin Racing, for those of you who don't know, are in the Formula E league. So it's like Formula One, but electric cars. And some other stuff we were doing included things like for the government, so getting young people to vote in the election, launching the Amazon Echo, working a lot with Pot Noodle and ISG hotels and so on. So some very, very large companies. And what I really want to delve into is, how can somebody so young get in front of these businesses and sell to them and deliver projects? So to give you the almost the bit behind the story and how that grew is, for me, being a young person, I realized that for me to scale the company at the speed I wanted to scale it, I needed to get somebody in my corner, somebody to fight for me, somebody to defend me, but also somebody to bring in expertise and value. So initially that started off with mentors. And so I reckon I probably got my first mentor about 14 years old. And so from the age of about 14, I had mentors, people who were full-time there just to look at me as an entrepreneur and say, what can I improve on? What can be better? What support can be provided? And I really encourage you all, first step for even think about anything else, if you haven't got them, really focus, can you get some mentors? Now, you might meet some mentors by going through the Diana Award process. You might meet some mentors. I met a lot of mine at events, which obviously a bit harder right now, but you also might meet them on LinkedIn and so on, just to reach out to people. Now, for me, the great thing about having a mentor is the fact that you can bring people in who are experts in their field, who have been there, done it, and they can just help you learn from their mistakes, so you haven't got to do the same mistakes again. So I worked out from a very young age, obviously being so young in business, one of the challenges that I had was trying to run the financial side of a business. So I could run the sales, I could talk, I could engage people, I could sell to them because I was very good at the conversation side of things. But when it comes to looking at the numbers on an Excel sheet and understanding how well are we doing, are we making profit? Are the team delivering what they say they're going to deliver? And so for me to be able to do that, I then had to really try and find a new way to understand these sort of skills without necessarily going on a complete course, something like that, which would have been very time consuming. So I got on board a guy who used to be the head of finance for Apple in Japan. Now, on the face of it, that story sounds super random, because you think about it, how on earth would somebody get in front of somebody at that age who was so senior in a company? My way of reaching out to him was by going onto LinkedIn and by finding out that he actually now lived in Kent, where I was, and just messaged him and said, "Hi, can I get some advice?" And one of the great things all of you on this call have got on your side is age. Now, yes, there are challenges being a young person trying to sell to companies. By no means is it easy, because you've always got that worry of, why should I trust a young person? Are you going to deliver what you say you're going to deliver? But one thing that you can do, you can really tap into the age card when it comes to getting advice or support. You can easily reach out to these senior people and just say, "Hi, yeah, I'm currently running X, Y, or Z. I'd love to get your advice." And you'll be amazed at the amount of people, especially on LinkedIn, who will respond to you and go, "Happily have a coffee," or "Happily have a call" in current times. And by me having these calls and reaching out to these senior people, I could then build a network of mentors. Now, what actually ended up happening is one of my mentors, it was never intended to be like this, but he ended up actually coming full-time into the business, becoming like my right-hand man. And he was then leading on the whole operational side of the company, whilst I could then focus on the more sort of sales, marketing, pushing growth for the business. Now, when it comes to employing and growing the team, when I was 18 years old, we managed to get the business up to the size of having 26 full-time staff. Now, I've only ever actually employed one person younger than me, so most of the team were older, and so that naturally has some strange dynamics. And those of you on this call who maybe have got employees or have produced teams or volunteers, whatever it is you might be doing, will know some of the natural challenges that happen by being a young person trying to be a leader. And so I quite had to quickly find a way to identify new ways of approaching that, and also make a new plan of how can I ensure that what I do gains the traction and gains the, I'd say, the respect that it deserves, because quite often people miss that. So for me, my way of doing that was by having the right people around me, like the mentors, like the right hand man in the business, to be like that anchor, be like that wall to say, actually, hang on a minute, this is a proper business, we are growing quickly. Now, when it comes to reaching and selling and getting your first customers as well, that is such a hard challenge. And so my best piece of advice for you on that would be just to really focus on building out your portfolio if you're a service-based business. So for us, like the first website I built was £50. If I were to put an hourly rate on my time to build that website, it would have been way more than £50. But because at the time I was so valuable to have a customer, to have a piece of portfolio, to have a chance to prove, yes, I'm young, but I've got the skills, that's way more important. So I'd really encourage you all, especially when it comes to early days, to really think about what can you do from day one that can help you get your customers, help you start to get portfolio over maybe paying your bills and growing up the bank account and so on. So by the age of 18, I then decided to leave that business. And so I then moved away from this marketing business. It was, this amazing work. I started to do more things personally. Now, the reason for doing that was because I really wanted to do more work in the sort of more charity sector, more to help and change the lives of other people. So this actually led to me consulting for a brand called GlaxoSmithKline. Now, the reason why I put these logos on the screen is because they're a name which not a lot of you probably have heard of, but they own a lot of products that you probably use. Sensodyne, Tums, Panadol, Aquafresh, Voltaren, and so on. And they were doing a £10 billion merger with Pfizer, so another pharmaceutical business. And I was asked to be the communications director for their merger. Now, the fact for a 21-year-old young man, boy, whatever term you want to use, to go in and lead on a massive change project within this merger is never anything you'd ever expect. Like, that is quite literally against every single rule at every time you want to use that's ever been done, and really breaking the norm. But the way of being able to get that was by the success in the business. And the way, for me, one of the key things to being successful in business is that relentless pursuit, that relentless pushing, that always wanting to do more. If you're satisfied, or if you will quite happily sit there and just go, you know what, well, that's good, I'm going to play my Xbox for a day, or yeah, things are just ticking on, but you're not going to be able to unlock some opportunities as some other people maybe on this call who wake up every single day going, I want to do more, more, more. And now I'm sure most of you who are here do that anyway, because obviously for you to get through to this stage in the Dana Award process shows you that you've clearly been identified as an individual with excellent talent and potential, and doing some exciting things. So I'd really encourage you just to really think about if you can adopt that mindset of always doing more things, always trying to make things better, always looking forward, because quite often you can just sit back and go, oh, I've got my first customer, brilliant. Right, I'm going to go on holiday. Oh, I'm going to spend it on X, Y, and Z. And you get lost with actually what you're trying to create. And I'm by no means saying this in a negative way, because it happened to me where when I was first starting out and I was starting to get some customers, I was spending more than I was bringing in, because I just was like this young guy making some money in business. I was like, oh, brilliant. So I quite quickly had to learn how to manage that. So one of the key things that I'd really love for you just to think about when it comes to the marketing of your business, because the marketing of your business is so important. And one of the big ways of achieving customers and achieving growth of your business is by tapping into emotion, by tapping into the heart of the desires and drivers of people. Now, no matter what you're running, whether it be a charity, business, even just a project, whatever it might be, marketing will at some point fit in with that, from how you convey yourself as an individual and how you walk into a room, how you speak online, how you work publicly. Or maybe the other side of things, which may be a lot more around maybe how you talk about yourself on social media, how you get customers, how you get donors if you're a charity, whatever that might be. So my best piece of advice when it comes to marketing is to always lead with the heart, always lead with your passion. People admire, people love passion. A young, passionate person will go far. People will be engaged. People will look at you and go, wow, there's something different about that. You think about some of the amazing young people across our generation who are who are online leading like things from like climate change to politics, whatever that might be. And these are people of pure passion that people then believe and they buy into. And if you want to grow the company at a very fast rate, you need to get supporters and people on your side, in your corner, championing you, in your corner, following you on social media, in your corner, liking the stuff that your company's doing. And the way you do that is by making them feel like they know you, making them feel like they're aligned to your values and what you believe in. So to give you the sort of complete picture of what I'm up to now, is I'm actually in the process of building a mental health app. And this app is actually something that we provide to corporates, so to employers, to help their staff's mental well-being by helping employees build community and interact with each other. Now, for me, my reason for doing it, like I mentioned a bit earlier, is because I really wanted to do something now that could make a difference in the lives of other people, but could still bring in my business knowledge, but also bring in my knowledge and skills of building applications and technology. So this is what we're now building, and during lockdown, we managed to raise investment for the business. We've managed to start it from nothing, and in about a week and a half's time, we'll now be on board with some of the world's largest brands to use our app. Now, the speed in which we've done that is something which is almost against the norm and not something you'd expect. And I say that because I really want you to think about the process of how we achieve that. And for us to get this speed, be able to work with some massive brands, was like I mentioned earlier, this constant desire, picking up the phones, calling, pushing. And that is how you can scale a company. That is how you could be that entrepreneur. The difference between an entrepreneur and employee, the entrepreneur is a risk taker. The entrepreneur is the person who will be checking their emails before they get into the office. They'll be checking their emails after they get to the office. They'll be the person who is phoning and really driving that business growth and is passionate about wanting to see that thing succeed, not passionate about paying for their holidays and not passionate about what time they're going to finish the office or emptying their inbox. It's much more than that. So what I'd love to do now is to run through some questions that you might have. I've done like a top line overview side of things, so very happy to run over those different questions. So let's go down. So this question is all around, could you repeat your advice about being a young leader with older teammates? Definitely. So being a young leader with older teammates is naturally has its challenges, especially if they're employees, because when they're employees, in a sense, they've got a young person paying their salary, and that, even as a complete ideology, is very strange. So something you really have to focus on and work on. So for me, the great way of doing that is by two different things. One was by having experienced people in my corner who, should something arise or something not go quite how they're expecting it, there's an expert who's maybe a bit more like their age who could talk to them. The other side of things is by really trying to push and build your trust and prove that you know what you're doing, prove that you are on this mission, you're trying to achieve something great. People that buy into people. And so for you to work with older teammates, the best way of achieving that is by you just aligning them and saying, look, we're in this together, let's make it happen, and really trying to give that collective approach. To give you the good example, so my right-hand man in the business that I was talking about earlier on, he's actually 61 years old. We actually don't work with each other anymore, but when the time we were, he was 61, he was a complete other age spectrum. Think about it. I was like the age you'd start getting a job. He was like the age when you start to retire. And so if you think about a generational gap, that is massive. But one of the key things that worked so well is that we just realized, yes, we're different. Yes, we think of things in different ways, but that makes it also more fun because we can collaborate. We can come up with ideas, maybe somewhere in the middle, and actually be something maybe a lot more successful or better. But I had to get him on board by aligning him with what I believed in my heart, what I wanted to achieve with this business. I had to get him on board with the potential for success and what we were trying to achieve. And I didn't use to get him on board by saying, I'm a young person, isn't that exciting? I got him on board by the actual tangible part behind that. So next question is, who or what inspired you to set up your business? So for me, what inspired me to set up my business at a very early age was my mum's friend who was the author who just challenged me to build her website. I didn't quite know it was a business at that age, but I just thought, you know what, I'm up for the challenge. I love challenges. I want to give it a go. And then when I was about 12 years old, so both my parents were not in business at all. So I could never really go to the business advice or financial support or anything like that. They would give me personal support as their son, but they can never really tell me what to do in the business situations. So my way around that was by actually meeting up with my granddad, who's my mum's dad. He lives up North England in Cumbria, so the England-Scotland border, and he had been running campsites and been the music shop and so on for quite a few years. And so he then helped me a lot when it came to thinking about some of the basics behind the business. He couldn't help me with the tech or websites, or any of the actual skill set, but he could help me understand the legalities behind running a business, because in the UK especially, there's a lot of challenges between being under 18 and running a business that you have to make sure that you cover off. which if any of you are going through that, happily send you an email after this, which gives you a bit more advice about what you can do for that. But yeah, so for me, he then became my next driver. What I was inspired by, I was always inspired by his lifestyle, the fact that he was in control of his future, the fact that he could decide what he does and when he does it. And that always inspired me to want to be like that. And so that led to me, one of the reasons why it led to me going into business. What is the biggest challenge so far and how did you overcome it? So for me, the biggest challenge so far, I would say, I'd echo a point I've made earlier, which is around, as a young person trying to grow a business in any space is hard, especially being a young person, because there's that mindset thing of a lot of other people already in that industry that you then have to overcome. You have to prove to them that you know what you're doing. You have to build up a portfolio. You have to be able to sell and get in front of people. And for me, the biggest challenge initially was trying to do that, was by trying to prove people that it was good to work for a young person. It was good to pay a young person's business to do their marketing. Now, for me, my way around this and how we managed to achieve this was by growing my personal brand. So by really focusing on what can I do to grow what I'm up to. How can I make sure more people know who I am, which then naturally help people know who my business is? Because I realized that not many people want to follow a marketing business on social media, but I do want to follow as an entrepreneur who's doing super cool things that might be of interest to other people. So I've then grew my own personal brand by speaking at events, did a few TV shows in the UK, like Kids Dragons Den and so on. And by doing that, I could then grow my brand, which then helped me overcome the challenge of who is he, why should we trust him, and is he good at what he does? Because by growing my brand, people then sort of overlooked that. Now, all of you on this call are in a perfect situation to do that as well. Whether you're award winners or not, all of you have got to a stage in down the award where you can be proud of, where you can both look how far you've come, look what you managed to achieve. And I'm sure some of you as well have got other awards and achievements that you've done outside of this, because it's probably linked to a Daniel Award in some way. Now for you, use them to your advantage, because every single piece of award, every single time you're in the media or the news, that is, again, a credibility building piece. It makes people trust you even more. So next question is around, what would you suggest to help get corporate partnerships on board? So corporate partnerships, it is a few different stages. The first stage, you've got what I call the minefield of trying to actually identify who is the decision maker. Corporates are really good at hiding the decision maker or making it a bit tricky to find out who it is. So if you're going to sell to companies, the first thing to do is take a step back and go, right, okay, who is the budget sign off? Who signs the check for this service that I want to sell to this company? And by understanding that, and go, right, how do I reach that individual? Is it on LinkedIn? Am I messaging them? Am I going to send them an email, a letter? Am I going to call them? Whatever it might be, am I going to target them on social media? Depending on that individual and where you reckon they hang out, where you reckon they go to for content or for resources, that's where you need to be. And then the next way of creating a corporate partnership is by then going, okay, now get a call with them, ask for some advice, ask to talk through what you're up to and hear what they think. Then go through the process of going, okay, this is what we're doing, would you be interested? But don't be afraid to be a bit cheeky. The other great thing about corporates especially is the size of the organization means if this person up here doesn't respond to you, this person over here might respond to you. So you can still get in front of them, message that person on LinkedIn, and they could be 3 or 4 tiers below the person who maybe is the budget sign off. But that's also completely okay, because they might be able to introduce you by email to the person you need to get in front of, should they believe and love what it is you're doing. So my advice to a young person looking to do something in a complete unrelated degree, in something completely unrelated, so obviously in this case you're talking about medicine. Now, I'd actually would say some of the best entrepreneurs have come from running businesses, or say from studying, doing degrees on non-entrepreneurship topics. So the reason why I say that is because some of the best businesses that have been created have always come from someone's passion for a project or industry. They haven't come because some person said, I want to try and make a business grow. They've come because they've seen a challenge or potential and they wanted to do something about that. So let me give you a good example. Medicine's a really good thing. If you wanted to do a business that was in the medicine or pharmaceuticals space, then, or even be entrepreneurial within a pharmaceutical business, you can still be an entrepreneur within a large organization as well. And actually, somebody who studied medicine will be far greater than somebody who has studied entrepreneurship and now trying to get into medicine, because it's such a complicated space. You need to understand the space more than you understand entrepreneurship. I believe you can actually learn entrepreneurship by just giving it a go and doing it. I've never really completed a proper entrepreneurship course. I did business studies GCSE, but I wouldn't never say that really had a massive impact on my business. One of the key things that I would say helped me in my business was just proactively myself getting up and doing it, learning from my own mistakes and giving it a go. So my best piece of advice for you, for wanting to study something completely unrelated, that's completely cool, but I would actually challenge you whilst you're studying, do something on the side, start a business, whatever it is, small or big, even if it's unrelated to the space that you're in, feel free to start it, because you will learn so much. I could be doing car washing, it could be doing running paper rounds, it could be something online and tech, whatever you want to be. The things you will learn are things that are very hard to teach in a classroom. What are some of the mistakes that you wish you had not done? I think first mistake is being a young person. It's quite natural. When there's money starting to come into the business, I got excited. I started to spend, and I was buying things that I didn't need and doing reckless purchases. And actually, my mum had to sit me down and just go, wake up. Reality of the world, things that are going on across the world. You can't be sitting here wasting money in the way that you're wasting money. You need to really realize what's going on. It led to me completely changing my whole approach. Became a lot more involved in charities, both financially and personally, and actually just changing some of my spending habits as well. So that's a mistake that I definitely made that I regret doing. Another mistake that I'd say that I made that I regret doing would actually be I regret. I had something in mind and actually I don't think I regret it. I think actually in reality, there are a lot of things that I don't regret or do not think that or do not wish that I did not do, sort of thing, because you learn from that. And there's nothing really that I can look at in my business journey and go, I wish I did not do that. That literally put me back years, that literally destroyed the company. There's nothing that really comes to mind. And I think maybe if I had more of a negative mindset, I might think of things, but because I'm very positive, I'm like, you know what, we've done it, we learned from it. I've never really let it play on me as much. So I'd say actually, I really challenge you to really flip that question around and just to think less worrying around making mistakes and more worrying around, are you not pushing yourself hard enough? Are you not making the challenges, or are you not trying to do things that might lead to mistakes? Because those are the things that become, high risk, high reward, become very successful.
I'm just going to jump in here quickly, Ben, if that's okay, and give you time to have a quick water break as well. I think with that question, I think you've answered it perfectly, but I just wanted to add the one about making mistakes. I think it is for young people. I think there's a lot of pressure applied on the generation, but also you apply a lot of pressure on yourself, especially as award recipients. And I would try and make yourself not think about mistakes as mistakes and think about as challenges and challenges that you learn from, and try to not, if something goes wrong, something's gone wrong, but what have you learned from that something going wrong? And try and always see things like that rather than, okay, something's gone wrong, it's a disaster. But Ben's pretty much said that anyway. I thought I'd just give him a bit of a speaking break. Okay, back to you, Ben.
All good. So this one, how do you deal with the issue of rejection in terms of ideas? So I say naturally, well, not actually, but we experienced that a lot being a marketing company. Creative work is very subjective. It's very down to individual personalities. For example, I'm wearing a red top right now. Some of you might be looking at that red top and going, I don't like that. Some might be looking and going, I like that. That is completely a personal opinion. And so one of the things that you always have with an idea, especially and for us in the marketing space, is you have to mix personal opinion with your customers or with the individuals, and also personal opinion for people and people who are going to be seeing that. So in a marketing campaign, your customer or the actual person buying the service might not like the red top, but your young people or whoever it is you're trying to reach from the end point of view might love the fact it's a red top, and you sometimes need to really focus on that. Now, when you do get rejection, when somebody says that is awful, and sometimes they can use words that can be quite horrible to listen to. We're obviously putting hours and hours or days or weeks or months into this idea or project, and somebody just goes, don't like it. That can be really hard on you as an individual. But that's where I really encourage you to spend time just with yourself, just really realizing actually every single one of you on this call, you all are doing something special for you to make it onto this call. This isn't just an open call, but anyone can join. This is something that you all have clearly got a talent. And so dealing with rejection, I think you just have to sometimes go, you know what, you cannot please everybody. Think about some of the most successful entrepreneurs and creators on the planet. By no means have they pleased everybody. Some of my best friends, and actually it links really well to it, some of my best friends are quite successful YouTubers, and for some of these guys is they'll be producing content that 85, 80%, maybe even 50% of public who watch the videos, and they just have to come to terms with there unfortunately are going to be some people who are not going to like the idea, who are going to reject the idea of the content or whatever they're producing. And unfortunately you can't please everybody, but I think you just have to make sure that what you're doing is the best of your ability, and you just have to be over time learn from that, and maybe you can take constructive criticism and find ways to improve. But also you need to be confident in what you're doing and say sometimes, you know what, the top is red because I believe it should be red, and you're paying for my expertise, you're paying for my ideas, you're coming to me because I've generated something of significance, so allow me to provide that. Or you might look at it and go, you know what, actually let's try a blue top instead of a red top because it might be better, and you may then find a middle ground as well. So this next question is a really quite interesting question actually. So how do you balance school life with a business? And that is a very, very, very good question. It's something that's most of my time growing a marketing company, I was full-time in education. So I would quite literally have to be in school all day and then by night running the company. And I had to learn how to be super productive. I had to learn how to use my time wisely. I didn't have time to spend 2 hours scrolling through Facebook or browsing things. I had to really focus on using my time to the best of my ability. And then as soon as I could, taking on people who could be like freelancers and could support by building other websites and doing some for client work. So then I could then be unlocked to continue growing the company and to sell and to grow things. But the best way I'd say to balance school life or uni life with a business would be to use something called Trello, or there's other tools out there as well, but I used to use Trello a lot. It's completely free. And Trello is a tool that allows you to like put lots of different cards, like a mini to-do list on this platform. And so I used to do that all the time. We used to have 3 columns. I still do actually. So I used to have table tennis balls. I then used to have tennis balls and then basketballs. And what used to happen is at the end of the day, if I didn't complete everything in my basketball column, in my to-do list for basketballs, it would hurt if it hit me like that, someone chucking a basketball at you. If I did the tennis balls work, then it'd be a bit sore. I'd get maybe a bit, oh, that's not very nice, but it wouldn't be of significant loss to the business. And the table tennis balls, I'd hardly feel them hit, but I know I need to do them at some point, but they're not a rush right now. And so by really being on top of how you spend your time, by having an easy to manage to-do list that's prioritized in most important to least important. And then when you get in, you can go, right, back from school, back from uni, whatever it is, start on the top, work my way down, and you're delivering the things you want to do. It also stops you avoiding the things that you don't want to do, because it's very easy, as especially a young person, just to think, oh, I don't want to do that side of things because it's too complicated, or I don't like doing it, it's too boring, like doing the bookkeeping and managing the finances. But you have to do it. That's part of running a business. You have the highlights and the great stuff, and you also have the harder, more admin things that maybe you don't enjoy doing. So you need to also be prepared to do them both. And the way of having this to-do list to help manage your time becomes so important for me. How did I cover the initial setup costs? So I suppose I want to touch on two different sides for this response. First one's actually for my business. It started with me, the laptop in my bedroom. I had the laptop already. I had the internet from living at home. So it meant that my initial costs were zero, nothing. I learned on YouTube, that's free. And so you can start a business without having to get any money. Now, for those of you who may be thinking you want to raise investment or want to do something, obviously, I've both invested in companies, but also in the last few months raised £250,000 for our new business as well. And the key thing I would say, if you want to raise investment and raise external capital or money, then you need to de-risk. You need to prove to the person with the money that they can trust you and that they're going to get great value and returns from you giving you the money. So let me give you a good example. Is there a way that you can prove your business with existing technology that maybe isn't as sexy, isn't as easy, but you can prove it, which then can lead to you getting investment? So for example, let's say you want to make a new taxi company, a new Uber competitor. Could you do it and run it on an existing taxi booking app that you pay £5 a month for? Or could you do it using Facebook or WhatsApp where they send you a message and you book the taxi manually? Yes, it's not ideal. Yes, it's not going to scale. But the thing that people put money into is the product, the team and the people behind it, and the sales and the traction. So if you can prove that people want what you do because they're using it at the moment when it's not as sexy and not as cool, then that's going to help you raise help it a lot easier when you want to raise and get investment. So I'd really encourage you to try and find a way to prove what you are going to do without raising any money. When you do want to raise money, the best way of doing that, depending on how much you want to raise, you can either go to some charities and support networks for young people that will do that. There are obviously private investors. I wouldn't go to VCs. So VCs is a term called venture capitalists, and they basically invest in larger, bigger funding rounds. They're talking about investing $500,000 to more into a business, and that's way more than what you'd ever want to raise in your first raise, especially when you're just starting out or something quite small. So definitely what you want to try to do if you want to raise money is actually by contacting individuals and just getting individuals to put in lots of individuals to put in little amounts of money, so it's low risk for them. Maybe if you want to raise 50k, you get 10 people to put in £5,000. Top tip, I suppose, is to give you a bit of software. If you are wanting to do that, there's a specific software called Seed Legals, SEEDLEGALS, and it's obviously there are loads of different versions you can do. The Seed Legals is actually what we used to do our recent fundraise. And when you want to raise money, there is a cost to get the lawyers involved to write the contracts and so on. So Seed Legals is like quite a cool tech alternative to that, and it does it all through the online technology that makes it super easy and a lot cheaper for you to run. So you might find that it's a good way of doing it. But yeah, to come back to the original question, that setup costs, try to do it for next to nothing, grow from there. And if you want to raise money, do it at that point. Don't raise it from day one at all. This is quite an interesting one, actually. This is all about handover of a project. Now, I experienced this in its extreme form when I left my marketing company. I went full, well, no, I stopped from being full-time to leaving. And I remember walking out for the last day, knowing I'm not going to return to the office. And that was quite freaky, weird, strange, everyone to use. The best thing that I would say when it comes to handing things over is, first of all, ensuring you have a great team to hand it over to, great people who have the same passion and believing it as much as you did. Because if you don't, it'll go like that and it'll die, because people need to have that energy and that excitement that you had when you created this. Second thing would be to make it super, super easy. Although they might be clever people, treat them like they're toddlers, in the sense of document things, tell them how to run things, how to do things. And so it means that they can continue running at the same level you were, and they can add their spin to grow it as well. But the key big thing is the team you're handing it to. Make sure you believe in them and really spend time to get them on board with your vision and passion. So when will the app hit the market? I'm guessing I'm talking about the app that we're building. So the app we're building is already out. It's in use. It's not a public app, so you can't just download it and use it as a member of public. Corporates pay for it and provide access to it for their staff. So mind your business, it isn't like an app which can be found on the Apple App Store, Google Play Store. Publicly, it's something that's provided by an employer. So it is out, but it's not public. How do you find contacts for big corporate companies, and how did you get involved with government on your marketing company? Sure thing. So how do you find contacts in big corporates? Google would be your best friend, because it is full of it. Corporates have lots of information about them online, and it's because they're so big. So use Google. Let's say you want to reach the chief HR officer, so the person in charge of all of the people at a corporate. Then Google, who is the chief HR officer of X, Y, and Z? And it will come up. Also, remember that you can also use LinkedIn a lot more as well. So you can use LinkedIn to find people, find job titles, find information about companies. Don't be afraid to do that and to search on that. LinkedIn's completely free for you to get your account. It's obviously like a business social network, so it's really good for growing your personal brand, but also reaching people as well. How did I get involved with the government? So I got involved with the government by, I think it was actually speaking at an event, and somebody from the government was at that event, and then started a conversation, and now work heavily with them, and actually recently led the government's youth entrepreneurship strategy, which is a massive review that what can the government do to encourage more young people to start a business. How do I practice self-care and incorporate into my busy schedule? That's a really, really good question, actually. So for me, I do a few things. I love sport. I love being active. I love being out and about. And for me, sport's a great way of recharging, but also thinking. So a good example of that, every morning I go to the gym, and by me going to the gym before work, I get in probably about 7:45. By me going to the gym from 7:45 till about 8:30, and then having a shower and in the office by 9:15, it gives me enough time to be able to really get started in the day. I work so much quicker when I've had that time in the gym, but also by doing that, I'm able to do a bit of self-care. I deliberately do not bring my phone into the gym. Against what a lot of people do, where they bring their phone in their headphones, I don't use headphones in the gym. It's my time away from technology. It's my time with the weights and the machines, just to chat to them, I suppose, and not chat to my phone or engage with any tech. And for me, that's been so good to help sort of have that switch off. The other side of things is in the evenings, really trying to make sure that, yes, sometimes you have to work hard and hustle and get things moving in the night, but also there are times when you can just have personal time. Like tonight, it's obviously the Champions League semi-final. I'm a Chelsea fan, so it's not quite going to be as enjoyable to watch, but I can now go there and watch it with my friends, and we're going to come round to, a couple of them are going to come round to my flat, and we're going to put on a game and have some food. And so I can still do that whilst running a very fast growth business, because by me doing that, spending time not talking about business, spending time personally, is a great way to help relax and just be me. And Everyone might have a different things. I also loved in swimming because I find with swimming, it's such a repetitive process of doing the strokes one after another. And by doing that, you really get a chance just to think and really get a time just to reflect and to bring back your thoughts. Some people love to meditate, some people love to do all different types of things. It's about finding your thing, but definitely do not discount yourself and your self-care, because so often I see successful entrepreneurs have to pull back or have to stop, or because they haven't invested in themselves enough. Do I believe that anybody can become an entrepreneur? I think that's a really, really good question. I think anybody can become an entrepreneur. I think there are natural traits that somebody might be born with, which makes them think more entrepreneurial or want to be more entrepreneurial. But I do think that with the right support, mentoring, and advice, anybody can become a successful entrepreneur. So definitely think they can. What is the most important skill an entrepreneur should have? So for me, the most important skill an entrepreneur should have is 100% self-motivation, the ability to get up in the morning and go, go, go. When you don't have that, the business won't grow at the pace you want it to grow. When you don't have that motivation to get out of bed and get going, you're not going to grow the business to the pace that you may want it to do. You may spend more time just dreaming about owning a house and growing this large company instead of actually growing a business. So the most important skill is self-motivation to get up and go and get started on it. What's this one? When would you like to visit Mexico, Colombia, and deliver your message to our young entrepreneurs? So in fact, I was in Colombia more than 6 months ago now, end of last year, doing a talk out there in Bogota. I was actually meant to be in Mexico, would have been about 3 weeks, maybe a month ago now, doing the talk out there. So I do love it out there. Definitely keen to go back at some point. Is it wise to scale down extracurricular activities if you want to enter entrepreneurship? I believe entrepreneurship is an extracurricular activity, if you want to think of it like that. So, but I would definitely, you may want to scale down, if you're doing an activity every single night after school or education, and all weekend you're doing other stuff, then yeah, you probably are going to have to scale down if you want to grow a business, because you need to put the time in and invest into it. So yes, potentially, but also you don't have to stop everything. I do think you need to have that self-care, that personal time, which is obviously what I touched on with one of the other questions. If plans to start a not-for-profit, how do you connect or find donors and supporters? So a few different ways. One would be to really onboard them with your passion and what you believe in and what you're trying to achieve. And you can, by doing that, you can do video content, put that on social media, put that on like LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever it might be. Tap into any network you might have about friends and family who might have people they know who might be worth talking to. Reach out to people online who might be interested in donors, but also try to prove what you're trying to achieve as well. People don't like to be the first. People love to be the second, third, fourth, fifth, 100th, 1000th. But the first, they don't like. It's very hard to find the first people. So if you can try and find a way of getting it started by proving that what you're doing is working and exciting and making a difference, then you can start to do it. But while you actually get in front of them, given the current times, I'd really say LinkedIn could be an excellent way of doing that. Probably got time for one more question. Let's have a look. It's a really interesting one. How do you motivate your team members to increase their productivity? So there's always a battle in my mind that people aren't working as fast as I want them to work. That literally is always a thing that I always think, oh, if only they work a bit quicker or get more done. And I'd say, for me, that's because I've got the passion, because I'm trying to go quick and try to grow this thing and try to grow a business at the pace I want to grow, it's very hard to get people working that pace. But I say that there are ways to help people improve their productivity. So one thing you might find is someone like more of an evening workout. You might find that actually getting them into the office or getting them working from 9 a.m. isn't working for them. A couple of our developers are like that. They love doing like midnight hours and not working until 11 o'clock in the morning sort of thing. So then being proactive and going, okay, let's shift your working pattern to make it work for you when you're more productive. Because for me, I'm about getting the job done over forcing you to work hours you don't want to work. So things like that you can do. Really encourage to get to know your team personally, build a bond and a community within your team. By doing that, you can then start to get people on board with what you're trying to achieve and get them all aligned as a group, as well as the productivity and actual delivery of a business service. But I think that's probably about all we've got time for question-wise. But thank you everybody so much for your amazing questions. There's loads we couldn't get around to still, which is, I'm sorry I couldn't get around to them all, but hopefully what I've said has given you some good piece of advice and helped you move on with your next stage.